What's up YouTube? Today I'm covering the audiobook maker that I've been revamping, so let's go ahead jump into it and I'll just give you a quick demo on what it is. So here we are, I've got an audiobook loaded and we can do multi-speaker, and that's the biggest thing I added into this, is that you can use multiple speakers for an audiobook. So just gonna play from the beginning. I'm gonna do one in English and then I'm gonna do one in Japanese because that's what I've been playing around with most, but let's just listen to the demo.
Ram crossed in front of such a Subaru with crisp noises and headed towards the bed. No, she headed towards a small wooden desk in front of the bed. Each room had a space of its own for reading and writing, but for Subaru, it was useless, since he could not read or write in this world. Of course, he could write in Japanese though.
Maybe I should do that at least, even though I can't carry it to another loop. It might make it easy for me to remember things if I write things down.
What are you mumbling on about? Come here, Barusu.
Ram said in a tepid manner, as if she were disciplining her dog. Blue veins appeared on Subaru's forehead after hearing that. But it would only be a loss for him if he let her take control of things. Subaru could only show his true ability when he had the other person in the palm of his hand to begin with.
Alright, so there's a quick demo in English, and then I'm going to go ahead and load a demo of the same section but in Japanese, and we're going to listen to that as well.
一応書き物などをするためのスペースとして各部屋に用意されているのだが、こちらの世界の読みなきゃできないスバルにとっては無用の長物となっている。もちろん、日本語で書き記すことはできるだろうが。
最悪それでもやっとくべきか。持ち越せないにしても、文字に起こしておけば記憶するって意味じゃ明快になるかもしんねえ。し？
何をブツブツと言ってるの。バルス、こっち来なさい。
犬でもしつけるような存在な言い方に、スバルの額に青筋が浮かぶ。が、ここで相手のペースに巻き込まれても損をするだけ。そもそも、相手を自分のペースに巻き込んでこ、そのスバルの本領発揮と言える。
So there we go, a short demo, and you can be as creative with this as you want if you're doing multi-speakers. And so with that, let's go ahead and jump into how you can install it. Alright, to get this up and running, I recommend that you have at least 8 gigabytes of VRAM with an NVIDIA graphics card. I only have NVIDIA graphics cards at the moment as it's most compatible with a lot of these packages, so that is what you're going to need for this. And if you're installing manually, you're going to need Python and a couple of other software installed on your computer as well. But if you're a member of the channel at the packages tier, you're going to get access to the package to get that up and installed. And if you don't want to become a member on the channel and you would rather just purchase the package, I've made it available on my Buy Me a Coffee page here. You can get it here for $14.99, and this will include the audiobook maker and all future updates. So if you are a member of the channel, just head over to the community tab or the membership tab, and there's going to be a link here. So just click into the link and download version 3.0 of the audiobook maker. And after you download that file, it'll be a zip file. Just go and extract all, and once it finishes extracting, you should be left with this folder here that you can double click into, audiobook maker v3 audiobook maker. And once you're in here, all you need to do is go down to start.bat, launch it, and you should see everything start to boot up. So this would take probably about 10 to 20 seconds to boot up, as it's got to load some things. And if you do run into any issues with here, make sure to check that your NVIDIA drivers are up to date. But first, try to run the audiobook maker first, and if you run into issues, then update your drivers. So here it is, it pops up, and this is what I'm going to be showing in today's video. And then anytime in the future, if I release any packages, updates, or I am releasing new engines like Style TTS, stuff like that, there's this update packages bat file that you run. You just double click that and it will run through the process. So in this case, if I just double clicked on here, it's going to do all of the installation that it needs, and I removed the verification process for this so that it just does everything automatically for you, which is different than the previous one. All right, and so that should be it. So just go ahead and skip on over into the section where I show you how you can use the audiobook maker, and thank you for being a member of the channel. All right, but if we just want to get this installed manually, I'm also going to show how you can do that. So head over into my GitHub page right here. I've got all of the instructions here updated. If you care to read what changed from version 1 and 2, well, you can do that. I kind of wrote a little write-up here for that. But in any case, we're going to head to the manual installation on Windows 10 and 11. Yes, it's only Windows, but I do believe PySide 6 does run on Linux. So if any tinkers out there want to try and get that up and running, you're free to do so. But we are going to need a few things here. So we're going to need Python 3.11. 0.9 is what I use. So go into this page, scroll all the way down, Windows Installer 64-bit, and run through all of these steps for that. Then you're going to need Git on your computer. Go to download for Windows and then click here to download, and just run through all of the default options for that. I do want to mention actually for Python, make sure when you go through the instructions, there is a checkbox that says add Python to path. Make sure you check that option, and then if you want to use VS Code, which is what I like to use, feel free to download this as well, but that's optional. And then you will need FFmpeg, so just go and install this or get this installed up here. There is a tutorial on how to go ahead and do this, but you can actually install it anytime. So this is going to be after the tutorial or before the tutorial. And then of course you need NVIDIA GPU, 8 gigabytes of VRAM. All right, so to get this up and running, we're going to do a split window configuration here, and we're going to create a new, we're going to open up a new terminal on the Windows File Explorer. So go and right click on Windows 11, you can just do open in terminal, or if you're on anything else like Windows 10, you can just type CMD in whatever folder you're in here to open up a new terminal. So once you are here, we're gonna go step by step and get everything installed. So copy that line into here, then we'll change directory into Audiobook Maker, and then we want to create a Python environment with Python 3.11. Then we want to activate that virtual environment. And so if you're not able to activate virtual environments, go ahead and check that super user link here. And they'll show you how you can do this. And so you'll notice that the virtual environment is successfully activated if you see the parentheses venv, so that is good to go. You want to make sure that this virtual environment is always active when you're running the program or if you're installing anything, so that you can isolate all of your packages. Next, we'll install the requirements. Then we'll pull in the submodules, so just copy everything and paste that into here. So paste anyways, and then enter for that last line. And so those will be pulled, and then we are going to try to launch the interface as everything for the interface should be installed. So paste that, enter, and you'll get 2 error messages: Tortoise not installed, RVC not installed, and then it'll launch. So that means you did the GUI installation correct, and everything is good to go there. And we just now need to install our text-to-speech engine and speech-to-speech engine. And so one thing I recommend that you do is create a batch script. So what we can actually do is just do this real quick. So the easiest way to do this is just double click into that Audiobook Maker folder, and then right click, go to new, and we'll create a text document. And then we're going to call this start.bat. And so if you have it at start.bat.txt, this is no good. So just make sure that you can see extensions. If you go into your options, you should be able to go into view and then scroll down and uncheck this hide extension for known file types option. I believe that's default for Windows, checked. I don't know why, but now we'll just delete that .text. You'll get this message and say yes. So now we can right click, edit, and then copy and paste these lines into here. And then we can file, save this, and our start.bat should work. So, all right, so now if we double click into it, you get everything that we had. RVC, Tortoise not installed. And now we need to install some engines. And yeah, let's continue on now. So if you close down the terminal, make sure that you reactivate the virtual environment. So venv scripts activate. Then we're going to cd into modules. Then we're going to update the submodules inside of there. So paste and then enter for that last line. And then we just need to run these few lines right here to install Tortoise TTS and then to install DLAS once this finishes. So if you're wondering what we're doing here, I have a section for text-to-speech engines and Tortoise is one of them. I will be actually just coming out with a whole new video for the other engines that I do release, but on initial install, we're going to have Tortoise and RVC, or rather, I'm going to have those available. And so now once Tortoise is done here, we can do DLAS and get that up and going. Alrighty, and then next pip install the Tortoise API, get that one up and going. And then we're going to change directories back to our root directory. So the last thing we need to do is check and verify torch. So what we can do is pip show torch here. And that's going to show us what torch we have. So torch automatically gets installed, but we don't want this version. So we want to uninstall this version of torch. And then we want to reinstall torch with 2.31 and CUDA enabled. So this is required for Windows. And I already have mine cached, so it's going to be pretty quick. But for you guys, it's going to be a 2.4 gigabyte download for the prepackaged binary. So wait for that one to finish up. After Tortoise installation is done, we're going to move to the next engine, which is RVC in this case. Make sure your virtual environment is still active. If not, reactivate it. And then we're going to install FairSeek, which I have compiled for you guys here. So it's going to open up and you're going to save it into the Audiobook Maker folder. I have no clue where to put myself. And you're going to put it inside the Audiobook Maker folder. So save. And then once you have that, we can now install these wheels. So paste that and paste or enter, and it should get FairSeek installed. And then we can install this RVC Python library. So go and copy paste that in, enter, and this will allow you to use RVC. And then lastly, we want to check pip for torch. So we want to make sure that torch didn't get overwritten or anything, and we see that it's got the correct version, 2.31 CUDA 121. Cool. So that is all you need to get those two engines installed. It's going to be a similar process for other engines. And when I talk about engines, I'm talking about text-to-speech engines. Style TTS is an engine. XTTS is an engine. They're all different engines. And then same with speech-to-speech for RVC. But that's kind of, RVC is kind of the best in this area still. And I probably won't be adding anything new for now. So that is installation. That's manual installation done. Now let's head over into our folder and we can now start .bat. And actually first, before we launch into the graphical user interface, let's go ahead and download an RVC model. So I'm going to give you guys this Azas PTH file, an RVC model. If you have your own RVC models, cool, that'll work. But I'm going to download this .pth file. This is your RVC PTH file inside of the engines folder. So for RVC models, you need to go into engines, RVC, and then you need to create a new folder. Name this whatever you want the speaker to be. In this case, we're going to call it Azas. And then we are going to place this speaker into this folder. You need to make sure that the .pth file matches the name of the folder that you just named, and then we'll save that in there. If you have an index file that you want to put in there as well, if you're familiar with RVC, make sure that it has the same name. So it should be azas.index if you have an index file. So with this file, I'll be able to demonstrate to you how you can use RVC in here. And then for Tortoise today, unfortunately, I don't have any Tortoise models for you guys to use. But to do the same thing inside of Tortoise, it's going to be inside of engines, inside of Tortoise. And then inside of models, you can put whatever Tortoise files or Tortoise models that you might have in here. In this case, I have a Melina one right here that I'm going to demonstrate with today. And then in tokenizers, this is a little bit more advanced and I'll cover in a dedicated Tortoise engine audiobook maker video later on. So just want to demonstrate how you can use Tortoise and RVC in this video. So with those two in there, let's go ahead and start up the application. And when you launch it, it will take a little bit of time. You will start to see some stuff pop up in here. Don't worry if you see things like this. That's not an error or anything like that. As long as it launches, you should be fine. And as long as it doesn't say that you don't have Tortoise installed or RVC installed. So let's make this full screen. And so that you guys can see the full graphical user interface, I'm going to change the font size to the smallest that it can be. And yes, there we go. So a little bit of some weird graphical interface stuff going on here. I haven't really figured out exactly how to get that perfect, but let's go over some of the basic functionality. So up here, you have your menu bar, which has various things like tools, regeneration mode, background. You can set a background if you'd like, font size, and then file. It's got load, existing, update, and then export. And then you've got a load of different settings inside of here. So I'm going to guide you through first how you might do an audiobook maker with a default Microsoft engine. And so to do that, let's set up this TTS engine to PyTTSX3. For S2S, we'll leave this as the same. And then we're going to select a text file. Just real quick, for text files, you'll find them inside of this input text files folder. You can actually load up any text file that you have, but this is just where I have stored some demos. And it does have a parser built into the audiobook maker. So sometimes if you have paragraphs kind of like this, it'll end up parsing it into individual sentences. So just be wary of that if you run into that, because well, I haven't figured out a way that I want to do it to where it chunks out for Tortoise properly. So with that, let's now select a text file, go into input text file, text small.txt, and you'll see that those sentences are now loaded up into the table here. So now that we've got a text file loaded in, we're going to enter in a book name. I'm going to enter in audiobook test, and then I'm going to click on start audiobook generation. So it's going to generate, and that's super quick because Microsoft SAM is very fast. And let's listen to this first sentence.
Narration of Resro using text-to-speech, Marine Edition.
So it generates, and we are up and going here, but that's the basics. Now let's go over how you can use this with Tortoise TTS. So let's change this over into Tortoise. And then since we do have an RVC model, let's go ahead and use S2S engine. So check this box here. And so that's going to enable us to use speech to speech. And then we're going to select Azaz here, use RMVPE, leave all of these default values the same if you don't know what RVC is. And then down here, we're going to configure some Tortoise settings. So auto-regressive model, leave at default. And for most of these, we're going to leave at default so that we can download the default models that we need from Tortoise. And then for voice, it could be random, or you can upload any file that you'd like into it. We're just going to use random for now. And then we're going to select this use deep speed option, as this makes it a little bit faster. I wouldn't recommend using Hi-Fi GAN right now. It's not fully tested, unfortunately, but deep speed does work. So now that we have that, let's go and click start audiobook generation. And whoa, wait, you have this message pop up. So this is just another confirmation. And if we read this through, it says you've already started generating an audiobook. If you click yes, it will start and override existing audio files. If you want to continue generation from where you left off, please click continue audiobook generation instead. Still want to proceed. So this is just a warning I added into here, because if you start generating an audiobook, it's going to go through the entire text file again, one by one, overriding any audio that you might have generated previously. So if you don't want that and you just want to continue generation, that's what this regeneration continue button is for. But let's just go ahead and proceed because we want to generate in Tortoise. So let's go ahead and click yes. And on the first time around, it's going to take a long time because we need to download the Tortoise default models. So let's just wait for that to finish up, and we'll be back when that is complete. Alrighty. And once it's done downloading all of the models, you'll start seeing that it is generating in the terminal window. And we'll go ahead and minimize that. And let's go and listen to this. So you can choose to just choose a sentence and play audio to listen to that exact sentence, or you can use play all from selected. So let's play the first 3 sentences with play all selected. So select the first one and then let's go.
Narration of ReZero using text to speech, Marine Edition. This is really bad.
Lost and penniless. Those few words were all he could think of.
Well,
Alrighty, and to stop it, you just click the pause button, not the stop button. The stop button is for mid-generation. If you want to stop generating an audiobook when it's generating, use the stop button. If you want to stop audio when it's playing, just click the pause button. So there we go. We've got our 5 sentences right here. And there we go. We've got basic audiobook generation in here with Tortoise and RVC. Now let's go ahead and customize it a little bit more. So to do that, we're going to need some speakers. And what I mean by that is inside of the voices folder here, we're going to add some folders in here that contain audio files of speakers that we want to clone or use for the audiobook maker. So for this, I'm going to go and create me. This is going to be my voice. And then I'm going to create Melina. And then I'll go ahead and then just create one called Cal. And so let me go ahead and populate these folders real quick. All right. And inside of each of these folders, there is a single audio file. And so that's all you really need, a single audio file that is 2 to 10 seconds long to kind of just change the way that default Tortoise sounds. So I don't have a reload all option here inside of the browser. So what we need to do is we need to exit and relaunch. So just exit out of there once you have some voices and then just relaunch start.bat. So that's a convenience feature that I'll be adding in a little bit later. So this is going to load back up now that we've got some new speakers. Let's go ahead and reduce the font size once more again. And since we generated an audiobook previously, I'm going to show how you can load in that same audiobook so that we can now start adding different speakers to it and changing up how it sounds. So head on over into File, go to Load Existing Audiobook, and then inside of Audiobooks, we'll select that file or that audiobook that we just generated, which was Audiobook Test. So we'll select that folder, and here we go. So we've got our 5 sentences. And then if you go into this bottom right corner, under the voices label, you can see that we've got now different voices. Cool. So let's jump into multi-speaker generation to where you can assign certain speakers to certain sentences. And yeah, so let's select on speakers up here. If you can't select speakers, that's because you don't have an audiobook loaded or you don't have a text file loaded. So I do want to show that real quick. So when you first launch it up, you won't actually be able to select speakers. You need to load in a text file first, or you need to load in an existing audiobook. So I have that done for design reasons. I ran into some issues with it, so I just grayed it out until you get to a screen that won't cause issues. So now let's go and manage speakers. So that'll open up this new box here that we can start adding speakers. So we've got speaker 1, which by default I have set as narrator. And then for 2, let's go ahead and add Mel. And then I can select what color I want here. Let's go with this orange. And then I'll go ahead and add Cal. So let's change this to a blue and then okay. And then we'll go ahead and exit out of here. Here in the bottom left corner, you can see that you can select the speakers that we just made. And we can set up our settings. So I'm going to set up narrator first. Narrator for this, I'm going to leave at the default autoregressive model path here. Leave these at default, diffusion, vocoder, and tokenizer at default. And then for voice, I'm going to put me, and then I'm going to do deep speed here. And then for sample size, I'll just go ahead and leave at 4. Now, I don't want to use speech-to-speech engine for any of these as I don't have specific RVC models for these voices. So I'm just going to turn that off for now. But you're free to play around with all of this as it's very customizable. Next, I'm going to set up Mel. So when I select Mel, you can see that the areas have reverted back to default. So now it's at random. So now I just need to reassign for the speaker. So Melina, deep speed, I'm going to turn off S to S engine. And then for Cal, we're going to select Cal here, use deep speed, and then turn off speech to speech engine. Oh, and then for Melina, I want to actually use the Melina PTH tortoise file that I have trained up. So now that we've got these settings for our 3 speakers all done, if you go through each one of them, you can actually see that the settings are saved. And so we are good to start assigning speakers. So by default, everything's going to be spoken by the narrator, which is why I have this one hard-coded. But let's assign sentences to Melina. So let's do this one. And to do that, you just need to right-click, and then it'll highlight it that color. And then we'll do this 4th sentence. And then 3 and 5 we'll do with Cal. So now you've got these colors here, and this is going to change which speaker speaks the sentences. So now that we've got everything set up this time around, let's restart the audiobook generation, and that pop-up is going to pop up once again. That's telling you you're going to override existing audiobook audio files. So in this case, yes, we're going to do that, and then it'll start generating. So what's going to happen is it's going to go in order and generate each speaker based on whatever order that you set it up in. So all of the narrator sentences will be generated first, all of the Mel sentences will be generated, then all of the Cal sentences will be generated. This is for efficiency purposes, because if you try to unload and reload in tortoise models, it's going to take a long time. So you can see that in the table here, as they finish generating, it goes to dark gray. And so now we've just got these last 2 Cal sentences to go. And you can play audio while it's generating in case that you want to listen. Cool. So there you go. Now let's play all from selected just to see how that turned out.
Narration of ReZero using text-to-speech, Marine Edition.
This is really bad.
Lost and penniless. Those few words were all he could think of.
Well, penniless wasn't quite right.
He did have his wallet in his pocket, and setting aside the fact that he had an abundance of small change and very few notes, it couldn't be denied that he had his assets on him.
Alright, so not bad, right? At least as expected of Tortoise. So there we go. We've got multi-speaker generation for the audiobook here. Alright, and real quick, I'm going to show how you can stop the audiobook generation in case that it's generating and you just want to continue later. So going to click on Start Audiobook Generation. You'll see that the stop button you can now actually select. And we'll wait till it generates a sentence first, and then we'll click on Stop. Alright, so we'll click Stop. It says, are you sure you want to stop the generation? We're going to click Yes. And what's going to happen is it's going to wait until it generates the next sentence, and then it'll stop the generation. This first sentence is re-highlighted back, and it has currently stopped the generation. So generation stopped by user, as you can see right there. Cool. So minimize that. And there is one more thing that I want to go over. Actually, 2 more things real quick. So first is this regenerate sentence option. So regenerate chosen sentence. It says choose a sentence. If you just want to regenerate a sentence, let's listen to this one real quick.
Narration of ReZero using text-to-speech, Marine Edition.
If you don't like how that sounds, you can just regenerate the chosen sentence, and it's going to regenerate that audio for the sentence. So that is if you just want to generate a single bad sentence again, and it's by default going to use whatever speaker that you selected for it. So here you can see in the terminal that regeneration is in fact complete, and so it'll be different.
Narration of ReZero using text-to-speech, Marine Edition.
So a little bit different. All right, and mass regeneration. What happens if you want to just regenerate a bunch of sentences that you've already generated? So that is where this regeneration mode comes in. So let's go ahead and toggle this, and you're gonna see that all of the colors in the table are now gone. That doesn't mean that the speakers that you set for those sentences are erased. It just means you can now just start setting these sentences you want to regenerate with here. So to do that, you just select whatever speaker you want. So Cal, we want to regenerate 3 and 5, and then we want to regenerate 2 and 4, And then let's say we want to change the first sentence now. We want to change it to Mel. So no narrator in this case. Let's turn off regeneration mode. And you can see it's now updated here. However, I do understand that it can be confusing. Let's say you have hundreds of sentences here and you just want to regenerate those sentences. Well, I did just think about that issue just right now. So if you go back into regeneration mode, how do you exactly know what speakers you've already assigned? Well, let me just give you a quick fix that you can do inside of the code until I can create an option for it. Let's go ahead and just dive into one of the files real quick. So in the audiobook folder, go into source, and then we want to open up this controller.py file. Here, let me just do this inside of Notepad. So right click, edit in Notepad, and you're going to see Notepad open up here. Do Control F, and we want to search up change regen, and then scroll down, and then you'll see that we've got this DEF change regen mode. What you want to do is just delete the space and then the hashtag here. So delete the space and the hashtag or the pound sign, and then save the file. So if you save that there, you will now be able to see the colors when you go into regeneration mode. If you don't want to see the colors, just add that pound sign back / hashtag back into the code here. But for the sake of demonstration here, let's go and save that with those uncommented, and then we'll go into start.bat. So I hope to be able to add that as a toggleable sometime near in the future so that it's a little bit easier to do. And so you're not diving into the code, but I didn't think about that until now, so sorry about that. Now let's reload that audiobook. So go to load existing audiobook, and then we'll go into that one that we had loaded here, and then we'll go back into regeneration mode. So now that we're in regeneration mode, you can see that the sentences are still highlighted, the speakers that we had selected before, and we can now use regenerate continue audiobook generation. So let's do that right now and continue along, and that'll exit out of regeneration mode. And so we'll just have to go back into that if you wanted to regenerate those audio files for each sentence, and you'll see that it's processing now inside of the terminal. So this is ultimately something that I think you'll have to get your hands a little dirty with and play around with, because there are a lot of different settings that you can customize here and set. And so one thing that I do think would make this a little bit easier is to show you maybe like on another column here, like which sentence are you going to mass generate, because yeah, just doing this strictly based off of color it's kind of hard. So I'll think about that a little bit in the future just to see make this a little bit easier to understand. But yeah, let's re-listen to this newly regenerated audiobook, and here we go. Play all from selected.
Narration of ReZero using text-to-speech, Marine Edition. This is really bad.
Lost and penniless. Those few words were all he could think of.
Well, penniless wasn't quite right.
He did have his wallet in his pocket, and setting aside the fact that he had an abundance of small change and very few notes, it couldn't be denied that he had his assets on him.
All right, so there we go. That is a bulk majority of what we have here right now. I am working on adding additional text-to-speech engines in here, like Style TTS. I will probably do F5 TTS. I'll probably do Style TTS, then F5 TTS here. And then, oh, there's a couple of more options I want to show you real quick. Let's say that you want to update these sentences of this audiobook right here. To do that, let's say that this was the example right here. To do that, we can just add in a new sentence here. We'll just type in new sentence. We'll save this, and then we can now import that or update the audiobook. So we'll go to update audiobook sentences. It says current text file is loaded. Updated audiobook will reset all settings. So that's in case you have any settings in here that's not saved. It'll reset all of those. We'll just click yes here, and then it'll clear out the web user or the graphical user interface. And then we'll select the audiobook that we want to edit, which is audiobook test. And then we'll select the text file that we want to update with, which is this text underscore small. And then it says, this will delete audio for existing sentences if they have been modified. So do you want to continue? And so what's going to happen here is if you modified any of these other sentences, it'll also delete those sentences. So just be wary of that. And so we'll proceed here. Yes. So now we've got a new sentence here. And if we click on regenerate continue audiobook generation, it's only going to generate this last sentence. All right. So here you can see it generated that sentence with the narrative voice. And here we go.
New sentence.
So new sentence. And then last we have export audiobook. So this is going to export it to an MP3 file. So if you go into audiobooks, go into that audiobook folder that you've created, you select that folder, it'll export it into a MP3 file that you can take a listen to in case you want to, well, export it eventually. So here we go.
Narration of
Everything is in here in one large audio file, and it's not as robust as I would like it to be, but you know, it's basic. You got a basic functionality in here. And then if you change this slider right here, you can change the pause between sentences in the export option here. So this is in seconds. All right, and that is the audiobook maker. If you have any questions, please let me know down below in the comments, especially if it's for how to use it, or if you can think of any way to make the functionality a little bit better. I can't think of all of it off the top of my head, which is why I want to get the alpha version of this out as quick as possible to get it out to some more minds and to people that would like to use this tool, because I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be way more creative with it than I am, and I'd love to hear the user feedback on it. So yeah, look forward to hearing what you guys think about it. And once again, if you're a member of the channel, very much appreciate it. Those package members do get the package release of this. So if you want to now download it and try it out, you are free to do so. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. See you guys later.